Bob Lurie paid $8 million for the Giants in 1976. Now you can get maybe a backup infielder for that now. Maybe.
And Bonds hits one high.
As much of a legacy that Barry Bonds and Will Clark left behind for the Giants on the field, Pat Gallagher will leave one just as big off it.
Maybe the thing I'll miss most is that when most of the people are in the ballpark looking at what's going on the field, generally I'm looking about what's going on in the stands.
For over 3 decades, Gallagher's worked for the fans. Hired in 1976 from his job at Marine World in Vallejo, he was the Giants' first director of marketing.
I was not a gigantic fan, so my perspective was a little different, is that, what they didn't need was a guy who would sort of cheer when the team won and hang his head when the team lost. What they needed is figure out a way to put butts in seats, which was my job.
A difficult task considering the product. Candlestick Park was freezing, windy, unsightly, and the teams just weren't very good. Numbers at the turnstiles reflected the ballpark's flaws. Routinely, crowds in the hundreds would show up for a weeknight game.
It was like the crazy relative that every family has. It's part of the family, but you're maybe a little embarrassed about it. And what we tried to do is that we couldn't really do anything to make it any warmer there. So we sort of had to have a sense of humor about it.
I can't feel my legs.
Hey, easy, kid, easy.
To those valiant few who stay to the end of an extra inning night game, the San Francisco Giants present the Quad Candlestick.
Bob Lurie, God bless him, gave us a license to do all kinds of crazy things. So the Quad Candlestick would reward people for doing what was the ultimate act of being a Giants fan, and that was staying until the end of an extra inning night game, which was great. You couldn't buy it, you had to earn it. So it was this little silly orange button that people, and you see them now with all of their hats. Well, that was a badge of courage about being a Giants fan.
All those fans in Giants land love that crazy crab.
The crab, which was supposed to be a one-year gag in 1984. During that era, baseball had all these fuzzy mascots, the Philly Fanatic and the San Diego Chicken. And so we did this survey a little bit loaded survey that said, if we had a mascot, would you boo it? And 62% of the people that we surveyed said, yeah, I'd boo the mascot. We had no intention of putting it out on the field, but the response from the commercial was so bizarre and really so wonderful that we decided to put the little mascot out on the field. And it was a shtick. He went out there, he was like the Rodney Dangerfield of mascots. He went out there, got booed off the field, kind of gave people and walked off.
Crazy Crab was infamous, but the Quad Candlestick, that was famous. But for every success, there are usually a few blunders.
1977, the great Wallenda, Carl Wallenda, the patriarch of the Wallenda family, hired him to come out and walk across the top of the ballpark. We strung a wire between the foul poles in between games of a Giants-Mets doubleheader. It took him about 20 minutes, and he walked all the way across the wire, got to the other side, did the big fanfare. We made the top of the news, not only here, but all across the country. I was pretty impressed with myself. I was the new marketing guy for the Giants, and the general manager, Speck Richardson, screamed at me for about 15 minutes. He said it was too exciting because nobody got out of their seats to go up to the concession stands and buy anything, so it cost us about 25 grand.
Pat's always had this view that, hey, the Bay Area is the Garden of Eden, and the more successful shows you have in the Bay or near the Bay, the more successful everybody's going to be.
Current 49ers COO Andy Dolich was Gallagher's counterpart across the Bay with the A's in the 1980s. Rivals at work, the two fostered an unusual friendship away from the office.
We started in the mid-'80s with these pranks. I mean, Ashton Kutcher's made millions of dollars. I think we got a free autographed baseball. And it was like punked Bay Area between Pat and myself.
The way it started was 1987, the A's had the All-Star game. Andy was turning 40 years old, so one of our friends who has worked for the billboard company, Gannett, we put a billboard up that said, Andy Dolich is celebrating his 40th birthday by giving away free All-Star tickets. Give him a call. Had his phone number. And so, by some miracle, they actually put this thing on the inside of USA Today, which had just been started. He got about 400 calls. It was just one of those wonderful things.
Pat lived in an exclusive suburb on the peninsula where you can't do anything. If you do anything, you're going to run into trouble because of all their covenants. I called up the police chief of this community And I said, I'm bringing a portable billboard over which says Pat and Joan Gallagher are having a big garage sale at their house. So stop by, this is the address. And of course, that would just be unconscionable in this community, and I want you to go over and arrest Pat, which is exactly what happened.
I totally outclassed him every time in all these things. And if you asked him, he would never admit it, but deep down he knows that.
Our wives were like, do you guys work for a living? I mean, what do you do?
I think it was good for both organizations, and neither one of us got fired, so that was a good thing.
CBS 5 has learned the prank war may not be over. Does Dolich have something up his sleeve for Gallagher's grand exit?
Yes, but if I told the audience, I'd have to kill the audience. So stay tuned.